the significance of Friday, this Friday?
Good Friday.
Good Friday. Good Friday. Say Good Friday. Anybody else? Yeah, this Friday happens to be both Good Friday and Passover. And so I was sharing with our staff this morning about the significance of this time of the year. For the Jewish people, this is a very, very important time of the year. And also for the Christian people, this is a very, very important time of the year. And how many of you know the history? All right, so some of you know the history of Passover. Passover is celebrated by Jews or Christians?
Jews.
Passover is celebrated.
No, it's celebrated by those people who practice the Hebrew religion.
Okay.
How that would be politically correct.
That's Jews too. Yeah. Okay, so what's going on? Okay. All right, so let me just kind of, if I can brief you all. Some of you may have clients that are Christian. Some of you may have clients that are Jewish, the Jewish faith. And this weekend is the beginning of the celebration of Easter and Passover. Typically, Passover comes right before Easter does. And for those of you who don't know the story of Passover, the Passover was a tradition that was put into place, a religious belief, well over a couple thousand years ago. The Jewish people were living in Egypt, and while they were living in Egypt, they were in bondage. They were slaves. They had been slaves for over 430 years. And so there was a pull to be released from slavery, and there was a king of Egypt at the time who did not want to let the Jewish people go free. And so there was a discussion between God and Moses, who was the leader of the Hebrew or the Jewish people. Excuse me? You're talking while I'm talking. So anyhow, the leader of the Jewish people was Moses, and the leader of the Egyptians was a guy named Ramses, who was the pharaoh or the king. So there were hundreds of thousands of Jewish people who were slaves for the Egyptians, and there were a number of different tests that were put before the Egyptian leader, all of which the Egyptian leaders would always come back, and they would almost be comparable to what Moses was doing. So the end of the story is this. The last, I guess you call it a test or a curse that came about was God said that the firstborn in the whole country of Egypt would die because the death angel would come across all of Egypt, and all the firstborn animals and all the firstborn boys would die unless there was a sacrifice made where the blood of a lamb. God told the Hebrew people or the Jewish people to take a 1-year-old goat or sheep, kill it, take the blood, drain it into a basin, and take a portion of that blood and put it across the doorpost or the frame of the house where the people went in and out. And so all of those who did not have a splotch of blood on their doorpost, the death angel would kill the firstborn in that household. And so all throughout Egypt that night, the death angel went across Egypt, Keith, and all those who did not have the blood on the post died. All those who did not, their firstborn did not die. And so the term Passover was the death angel passed over those homes. And that's where you hear Passover come from. And so for the Jewish people, it's a very sacred time. They have committed to over whatever generations there would be, they would always celebrate Passover. The beginning of Passover is this Friday. And what happens is they're not to do any work other than food preparation on the Passover, and that the folks would eat vegetables and salads with bitter herbs on it, and they're to eat only roasted meat. And so that's where Passover came from. So if you have Jewish friends and you know they're Jewish, one of the sensitive things to do would be saying something like, well, happy Passover to you. Because it's like them saying, for those who are Christians, happy Easter to you. Okay? And so the Jewish people and the Christian people are tied together forever because of this Judeo-Christian belief of Passover. And for the Christians, what happened was, as you all, those of you who are Christians know, that Christ had been on this earth for 3 years in ministry. He was arrested. Right after Passover, the Jewish people who were the leaders at that time wanted to get rid of him. And so the Roman government collaborated with them. They arrested Jesus. They waited until after the Passover began because they didn't want a big riot to come on while the Passover was going on. And so Jesus was put on trials. He was convicted unjustly and put on a cross, which is called crucifixion. And on the third day, he said that he would rise. And so the resurrection is that third day, which is Easter. Okay? And so that's what the connection is between the two. So those of you who are online, you've heard my presentation on. Hopefully you'll all be sensitive to those who are Jewish and those who are Christians, so that you would at least recognize what they accept as their belief. So with that, I'm going to move on into our presentation this morning. How many of you got the SendHub message? Okay. Keith, you didn't get it?
The message?
Yeah, the SendHub message.
I did. I received a message yesterday.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're all, did you get it? Okay, very well. You did not? Okay, so we need to put you on the system. So today we're going to go over some important findings that I think is really important for all of you to know. How many of you are interested in working with buyers and sellers? Anybody here interested in working with buyers and sellers? How would you like to be able to focus your time and energy on the right type of buyer and the right type of seller? Would you like to do that? So what we're going to cover today is who they are and how you can focus your time. If you have unlimited resources, you don't have to focus. You can try to work with everybody. But if you have limited resources, I would urge you to focus your time and talent and energy and money on those areas where you will get the highest return. So we're going to move on into this area here. Home buyers and sellers, millennials. The millennials are the age group that is from born 1980 to 1995. They're a fairly young population, and they're 32% of the buyers last year were millennials, and they were the highest percentage of any percentage of buyers last year. So age, folks who are in the medium age, and the medium is half between above and half below. The median age of a millennial who purchased a property was 29 years old. Okay? So you'll know young buyers, even with the challenges they have with student loans, the challenges that they have with not being able to get the kind of job that they were trained for in school, they're still buying in large numbers and greater numbers than anyone else. 15% of them are also home sellers. So they already own the home and they're selling and they're moving. So you want to realize that some of the listings you get will be from millennials. And I want to just thank Jazz Marie Capps, who's our student intern who helped me put together this PowerPoint presentation this morning. So how about it for Jazz Marie? Very good. All right, so that is a little bit about the millennials. The next group is the Gen X. Some of you may be even in the category of Gen X. You were born between 1965 and 1979. Those are Gen X's. They were 25% of the home buying public. And so that's a pretty high percentage. If you take the 32% and the 27% of those who bought homes last year, most of them are pretty young people. They were born after 1965. And so I would focus a lot of my time and attention with respect to buyers on this category of buyers. The sellers, they're 27% of the sellers. So we saw that 15% of the millennials are sellers, but 27% of the Gen X's are sellers. So if you like to work on sellers, just keep this in mind, okay? All right, 29% of these Gen X's were what? First-time buyers. 13% are generational, multi-generational buyer. What is a multi-generational buyer?
Someone purchases a home where they would have parents living with them, or maybe even adult children still living with them.
That's right. And those, we're finding more and more of that. Yesterday I was out looking at properties, saw a great house in Granada Hills that's priced, I want to say, I think it's about 700, maybe in the high sixes, 4-bedroom, 3 bathrooms. I thought it was perfect for a multi-generational family. Had 2 bedrooms downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs. And it was in fairly decent condition, big backyard, no pool, large front yard, backyard all covered with concrete. But I thought it was a good opportunity for a multi-generational buyer. If you have any buyers in that price range that are multi-generational, it could be a good buy for your client. All right, the next group is the young baby boomers. The baby boomers, for many years, was the largest generation of people in the American society. But I will share with you that the millennials are forecast to surpass the baby boomers in numbers. So baby boomers are those folks who were born between 1955, the young boomers, 55 and 1964. Right, between 1955 and are you a young boomer? Okay, all right. So they're only 16% of the home buyers, but however, they're 20% of the home sellers. So I would focus some of my time on those young boomers if I were you, if I was trying to get listings. 15% of the old boomers, and these are folks born between 1946 and 1954. These folks are buyers, but 23% of them are home sellers. So start taking a look at this, Keith. If you're, pardon? 1946 and 1964. Those are all the boomers together. But the older boomers are between 1946 and 1954. But if you take the entire segment of baby boomers, old and new, or younger and older, yes, it's 1946 to 1964. Just the reverse if you're dyslexic, right? 64. Right, okay. All right, so then there's the silent generation, and many of those would be my parents would be a silent generation. They're a smaller percentage of the home buying public, and most of the silent generations are buying smaller homes. They're not buying larger homes. They're downsizing to smaller homes. Many of the silent generation are actually buying with their boomer kids. They're moving in with their boomer kids because they cannot take care of themselves by themselves anymore. And so many of them are moving to active senior living facilities, and they're also moving into assisted living care facilities. Okay? All right. All right, so younger buyers tend to place higher importance on older buyers and older agents. What is that? Younger buyers tend to place higher importance than older buyers on their agent communication. In other words, here's what's happening. Young buyers are into communicating with each other, and you need to learn how they want to be communicated with. And that's why about a year ago we went into this program that's called SendHub, because we're able to communicate with people via the text. Text is a powerful tool for younger consumers nowadays. So you may be emailing folks, and I remember a few years ago I was emailing some millennials and some Gen X's information, and they said, you know what, I don't look at my email. You know, call me or text me. And so if you're emailing folks and they're not really paying attention to their emails, you may be losing your communication with them. So you need to find out how they want to be communicated with. Most of them prefer texting versus personal phone call or other kinds of communication. The silent generation, however, most of them do not prefer texting. A lot of the boomers do not prefer texting. In fact, some of them take offense when you're texting them or texting anybody. So you need to be cognizant of who you're with as a customer, how you communicate with them. And I ask them at the beginning of my transaction with them, when I sit down with them and counsel them, either a buyer, can you turn that off, please? If I'm working with a buyer or a seller, I will ask them, how do you want to be communicated with? And they tell me, well, text me. And so I ask, what is the best time for me to communicate with you? And some of them will say, well, if you text me anytime, but if you call me between this time and that time. I don't take it for granted. I ask them right up front, how do you want me to communicate with you? and I think it's important for you to do the same thing. Younger buyers are predominantly referred to their agent, so even though technology is a big deal for young buyers, the majority of them are finding their agent which way? Through somebody who referred them to the agent. Did you hear me? So even though the young buyers love technology and they go online and they search for properties to their heart's delight, a large percentage of them are finding their agent through a reference, through a referral, through somebody who told them about the agent. So it's imperative that you keep in contact with your older clients, because a lot of your older clients may be telling their younger children and grandchildren which realtor to use. And also a lot of the younger buyers may be referring you to their realtor, right, if you're their realtor. So they'll refer another younger client to you as a realtor. So it's important for you to do really good work. It's important for you to follow up and to stay in communication with your clients, because when you do that, they're happy to refer you over to their friends and their relatives. If you don't communicate with them the way they want to be communicated with, guess how many referrals you're going to get from them? It's silent. Zero. You're not going to get any. So you have to follow up, even if it's difficult. How many of you have had a difficult transaction? Anybody here? Yeah. So you had difficult transactions, and the tendency is when you have a difficult transaction is to really, I don't want to talk to this person because every time I talk to them, they're mad at me. They're angry with me.
You have that experience, right?
I've had that experience of names I will not share with you today, but I've had that experience where folks have been in a contentious relationship with their client, and sometimes it's because of the lack of communication or the lack of proper communication. Maybe they're communicating, but not the proper way and not the way that people want to be communicated with. And so when that happens, there's a breakdown, and you most likely will not get a referral when there is a breakdown in communication. So make sure you're aware of who you're communicating with. Be aware that each of these different generational segments have different behaviors, and you need to be more aware of how they behave so that you can serve them the way they want to be served.
Sometimes you communicate with these people.
Right?
You don't communicate back.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes you do communicate with them and they don't communicate back with you. Well, right. Well, people process information differently. And it's not all generational the way they process information. I will share with you, I tell my wife, and we're of the same generation, but we process information differently. So I'll ask my wife, if I'm telling her something, do you want the short version or do you want the long version? Because I want to know, is she going to take the time to listen, or does she want me to just get right to the point? Some people are, just get to the facts. I don't want to hear all this background noise. Just get right to the facts, right? And so you need to ask people, do you want the short or you want the long version? And some people, one word you may say in your mouth may come out in a way that they interpret that word a whole different way than the way you meant it to be interpreted. And so it's not that they're mad at you initially. It's just that they don't understand things the way you're explaining it to them. And so don't take it personal. What you do is you ask them, how would you like me to communicate with you? What is the best way for me to work with you on this? And sometimes it's about the person's background. Some people who are engineers, they're clear-cut, they're right to the point, they want to get it done. There are people who are artists and musicians, they want the flowery version of it. They want all the details, and there are people who are like that, so you need to know who they are. About 80% of the people who purchase a home, right, were what? Young people. People under the age of 32. 8 out of 10 is the same as 80%. Would you agree? All right. So I just said 80% of the people who are buying homes today are what? People are under 32, right? Searching for buying a home, regardless of their age, William, buyers use a variety of ways to search for homes. Internet being the most prominent way that they're going to search for homes. All right? 88% of the real estate agents, 88% of the people who search for homes search on the internet. And in some cases, depending on the age bracket, for example, millennials, I think it's even a higher percentage of the people who are searching for homes or searching online. 87% of the people who search for a home ultimately buy a home with a realtor. So that's very encouraging to know that even though they search for homes online, that they still want the help of a realtor. And one of the things that we talked about last week was our company, our presence on the internet, really, I don't like the image that we're projecting with respect to the lack of beautiful embellished photos on our website. Why? Because we know that people don't like to read, they like pictures. Right? You ever hear the term a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So what we're doing is we're changing our format on our web presence to make sure that we give people what they want, present the message the way they want to be presented. Here's a very powerful tool here, and this is this. The majority of the young people who are buying homes and are selling homes are using mobile devices. And so if you have a flip phone, you are out of it. That is not a mobile device. That is not a smartphone. That is a dumb phone. So you want to make sure you have mobile devices, and we're making sure that everything that we do have mobile applications, so it's mobile friendly, so that folks can go onto their phone and they can access the MLS and any other information, a contract, zip forms, anything else that they can access using their mobile device. Okay? Any questions? Yes.
At what point, the statistics that they're using agents, I have a feeling it's a little bit misleading, because what I'm finding is that, yes, they are on the internet, and yes, they are using agents, but they're not using one agent as they search. They search, they go to
That's true.
of that mindset more than there has been in the past.
Right.
I'm starting to notice.
Right.
Although they end up using a realtor, it's the realtor they found while they were looking on the internet.
That's right. And that's why it's important. That's why it's important for you all to have a presence on the internet. And it's also important for you to be able to show them, through whatever means that they want to be communicated with, why you are a better agent than the other agent. What value are you bringing to them? If you can show them value, they'll be loyal to you. If you cannot show them value, they're going to go right to the next agent who they will do business with. I'll tell you, for example, a lot of millennials and a lot of young people, they expect to have an immediate phone call return within minutes from the time the phone call is placed. If you have a property listed, for example, and they call you about your property, you should get your mindset to respond to them quickly, because if you don't, they're just going to go right down that internet to the next agent, and they will use that agent to help them get what they want. So promptness in responses to them is critical. If you wait until the next day, that lead that you got is pretty cold. It's gone. Okay? All right. Any other comments before we move on? All right. Thank you. All right. So characteristics of buyers. The median age of millennial home buyers are 29 years old. They're making really good money, almost $77,000. That's a high income that they're making. All right. And with that kind of salary, you can buy a decent home, most likely in the $400,000 price range for buying a home like that. Right. 79% of all buyers consider their home purchase a financial investment. That is a good one. A higher percentage of millennials thought it was a great investment. You see that? All right, so characteristics of home sellers. Gen X home sellers represent the largest share of sellers. Who represents the largest share of sellers? And who are the Gen X? What age range is that? Open book test.
That was the 1980 to 1995.
No, I don't think so. We're going to come back. We'll come back. We'll see, Keith. You're paying attention. What is the Gen X? What category, what age group is that? Okay, I'm moving on. Huh? All right, so pay attention because I said it already. All right, I want you to get this. All right, because this could mean the difference between you getting a transaction and you missing a transaction. You need to know. Okay? All right, so let's move on. Sellers move, the typical seller who's a let me go back to the sellers. A lot of younger sellers are moving because of a job relocation. So if you find out that Amgen is laying people off, or you find out that certain companies are adding on folks, you might want to start marketing around that company or getting in touch with the HR person for that company, because guess what? You may get a lead on somebody who has to sell their house as a result of the company relocating. I know last year there was a big announcement that I believe it was Honda Motors of America was going to be moving from Torrance to Texas, right? So you know what? I'd be trying to find out, well, where do those Honda people live at in Torrance? So maybe I can get them to list their house with me when they're going to move over to Texas. They can get a lot more money for their a lot more house for their money in Texas than they can get in Torrance, right? So some companies are moving. So you might want to pay attention to what's going on in the news, because you can see where people are expanding, companies are, where companies are relocating, and this may give you an edge. I recall years ago when I was door knocking in Pacoima, and GM said they were going to close their plant. And so guess what? I was able to sell a lot of properties because those folks who were working with GM, many of them decided, we're going to retire. We're going to retire. We're going to sell our house in Pacoima, Lakeview Terrace, San Fernando, and Sylmar, and we're going to buy a brand new house in Palmdale, Lancaster. And so I sold a lot of clients. I listed their home here, and they moved up to the Antelope Valley because I was paying attention to what was going on. So it's important to know what's happening in the news. Would you agree? All right. So it says here that Gen X sellers were most likely to have wanted to sell earlier, but what prevented them from selling earlier? What prevented the Gen X sellers from selling earlier, Rodney? Anybody else want to help Rodney out? They were underwater. A lot of the people had no equity. They had negative equity. And so they wanted to sell 3 or 4 years ago, but they did not, because if they sold, it would have been a short sale. And some folks said, you know what? I don't want to get a short sale. I don't want to have that on my credit. I don't want to lose out everything I have. So they just hung in there for another 4 or 5 years, and finally now, so now they can sell. So those folks who put off selling are now potential sellers that have wanted to sell for some time. So it's a great time to door knock. It's a great time to do different things, to market into your farm, to market around your just listed, to market around your just sold, to reach back out to your past clients, because many of them are now in a position where they're ready to sell, but they're just waiting for the right realtor to knock on their door or call them, and that could be you if you're doing your prospecting properly. Got it? All right, so we're going to go here to sellers, medium. Most of the sellers who are older, the silent sellers, are what age? Anybody remember? Yeah, most of them are 70 years and older, because the baby boomers, they started in 1946. Remember we said 46, 64 baby boomers? Those of you who are dyslexic, maybe you can remember that. Yes, Keith?
No, that window's blocking.
Okay, let me see how I can, you know how I can slide this over? Is this little arrow here? That one? There? Oh.
I don't want to close it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith. All right, Aida, what happened? Aida says, what happened? Your net has been reestablished. Oh, Aida, we're still here. Okay. All right. So 60% of the let me go back to the silent generation. The majority of the silent generations are not moving right across the street. They're moving out of the area. They're moving 20 miles or more away. So the silent generation are people who are 70 years or older. Many of them are going to other communities. They're moving back to where they grew up as a child, or they're moving into an economy where the taxes are lower, like in Nevada and other states, in Florida. They're moving to areas where perhaps they can get a smaller home. They're moving to areas where their kids are at, so they can help, their kids can take care of them. That's where the silent generation folks are moving to. They're moving longer distances, and for the most part, they are downsizing. They're not enlarging their dwellings. 60% of the sellers found a real estate agent through, oh my gosh, how did they find their agent? The sellers? Referral. So you thought all the door knocking and all the cold calling was going to get you the most. It really comes back to word of mouth. So why not reach out to people you know and tell them what you do? Stop being a secret agent. Let people know what you do. Okay? All right. So I'm almost out of time here, so let me just hurry through. Okay. All right. So now, did I go too far, Jasmine? Okay, here we go. All right. So home buying, selling by generation. So buyers by age group. You see here, millennials are born in 1980 to 1995. Young boomers, 55 to 64. Okay, if you have this quiz here, you'll know the answer next time, right? These are the generations here. All right, the median age of a millennial is 29 years old. What does the median mean? Anybody ever take statistics or math analysis? Yeah. What is a median?
The median is that number which half the numbers are more and half the numbers are less.
Exactly. That's what the median is. Whereas the average is what?
The average is the sum of the total divided by the sum of units.
Okay, there you go. All right, so the median is half of the millennials are above 29. They're like from 29 to 34, and half of them are below 29. They're like from 29 to about the early 20s. So that's what they are. All right. Medium income for a millennial, half of them are making more than $77,000, and half of them are making less than $77,000. Right. And that's above what they made the previous year. The previous year, they were making almost $74,000. And they bought a home that was about a 1,700 square foot home. Is this helping anybody? Oh, it's helping one person, two people. I saw a head shake. All right, so here are the age groups. Generation X, 35 to 49 years old. Rodney, there's the open book test question, right? Boomers, older boomers, 60 to 68. Younger boomers, 50 to 59. Right? Millennials. Okay. What are the primary reasons for millennials buying a home? It's an open book test. What is it? They want to own their own home. That's why most of them buy. Not because of the investment, not because of the tax write-off, but because they just want to own their own home. They're tired of living at home with their parents. A lot of millennials and a lot of Gen X's are living at home with their parents, right? A lot of millennials, you know, are living at home with their parents, so they want to have their own space. Young boomers say that they're moving mostly because of what? Why are younger boomers moving? Thank you, because you're such a good reader. Because of a job transfer. Either they got fired, they got laid off, they got a promotion. There's something that caused them to relocate because of a job. All right, the majority of millennials are buying and they're searching online, as we said earlier. So this is some redundancy. Hopefully you paid attention. The majority of millennials do what? They purchase their home through whom? A realtor. And so William said they may not be so loyal to a particular realtor. They're just loyal to the realtor practitioner. So the better you can differentiate your service from that of your competitor's service, the better chance you have of getting the millennials to want to use you. But keep in mind that if you don't communicate to them the way they want to be communicated with, that is a quick turnoff from them. Okay? So if they are saying, text me, and you don't know how to text, or you say, I don't want to text you, guess what? You're basically saying, I don't want to do business with you. That's what you're saying. All right, so we covered it all. How are we doing? Oh, my gosh, we're doing really well on time. All right, so let's go back, and I want to ask you guys, is there any questions that you have? Who's buying and who's selling?
Younger generation.
Well, that's a very profound statement. The ones that are buying is the ones that don't have homes. Well, some of them who do have homes are buying too. But yeah, that's an accurate statement. Yes.
Can we open a discussion to a related topic?
Real estate?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
My seller on Killamore in Porter Ranch found his house in Zillow.
Mhm.
As we know, we have a issue going on with Listing Hub and Zillow.
Right.
And my seller went on to Zillow the other night and couldn't find his listing.
Couldn't find
That listing from 2 years ago.
couldn't find his listing, the one that you have.
Right.
Got it?
And he called Zillow, and of course Zillow says that has to do with the fee. Well,
The fee?
the feed, F-E-E.
Oh, feed. Okay, got it.
From the MLS.
Got it. Mhm.
So the bottom line is I called Joy Golden this morning and I said, Joy, why aren't my listings getting up on Zillow, including Encino, after I reissued it out? And again, I know these people are looking online, and Zillow is one of the big places, so that is advertising for me in my listing, and if it's not there, we're not getting the feed. And Joy informed me this morning that as of February 21st, the feed is no longer automatic, and that in order to get our listing into that system, and you're going to have to sign up for Listing Hub.
Ayan ang golden order siya na lalo.
Broker signing up for Listing Hub, authorizing that the listings would go up to Zillow, and then we as agents, once the broker is signed up, can then go in and sign up and press the button to have our listings show up.
Okay.
So hopefully we can address that issue.
This is not news. You may recall about 2 months ago, what did I say to all of you? What did I say? Did anybody recall that conversation?
We talked about the early 10,000 merger and then not putting it in. What I'm suggesting now is I've got a client that wants to see it there.
Right. Right. So we will look into that for you. But this is not broadcast news, because I brought this all to you over 2 months ago. I shared with all of you that there is a big battle going on between Zillow and Trulia and ListHub, and I broke it down to News Corp, what they were doing, and I shared with you that those properties that were on Zillow, that the agreement that Zillow had with most of the local association of realtors was going to expire in April. And I shared that with you. And also I shared with you that that Trulia had a separate agreement, because there are two separate companies, with ListHub and Realtor.com Move. We went through the whole progression of all this stuff, and maybe you guys weren't paying attention, but do any of you remember this conversation that we had? Okay. So, right, but at the time, all I got was, oh, that's great, right? But I'm with you. I hear what you're saying. So what Zillow is trying to do is Zillow wants to make sure. Zillow has a business model of getting listings and putting them on the internet. And what they do with those listings is that they use those listings to create market share for them, so that they can go back to realtors and say to them, how would you like to buy this zip code at 91326 in Porter Ranch, Keith? And Keith says, oh, okay. And so what they do is they take all the listings from all the aggregate holders of properties that they can get, and they put them up there. Now, the difference between Zillow, Trulia, and your local real estate multiple listing system is this. The multiple listing system has rules. For example, if you have a property that's located in Granada Hills, and you have that property as a sold property, and you do not report it as pending or sold, guess what? You're going to get a notice. You're going to get a notice saying that if you do not do this and report it properly, you're going to get fined, right? Zillow, on the other hand, and now Trulia, because Zillow owns Trulia now, they don't have those rules. And so they can keep those properties up there as long as they wish, And they do. They keep them up for a long period of time because oftentimes what will happen is the consumer will call you and say, hey, I want to look at this house over here on Dillon. And you'll say, oh, let me look it up. Why are you not showing me this house on Dillon? On Dillon Avenue. Oh, because it's no longer available. Well, I saw it on Zillow, right? Right? So that's what's happening. So they're competing with each other, different rules. It's almost competing in an environment where you don't have to play by the same rules. I already got your point. So if you're going to make your point home again, go ahead.
You just said about the person seeing the expired or sold listing on Zillow.
Right.
You know, when I hear that from a client, that's my opportunity to bring them into being loyal to me because I only deal with up-to-date current information. So I would just use that situation to my advantage.
Well, that's what realtors are trying to do, is they're trying to show, the Realtor Association has been trying to promote accuracy because our information is much more accurate than any other aggregator of real estate properties because we have rules that we adhere to, and if we don't, we get fined or sanctioned for not adhering to those rules. Whereas Zillow, they don't have those rules. They play by their own rules, and they do a great job of packaging and marketing properties that we give them. And then what they do is they take that information that we give them for free, right? And for a few months ago, everybody was saying, no, we don't want to give them that information for free. Why are we doing this? Everybody was beating up on Zillow. Now that the rubber's hit the road now, where Zillow is now using their strategy, they're saying, you know what? Every seller who don't see their property on there, I'm going to tell that seller to call their realtor. It's working. Pretty good business model, huh? It's working because now what they want to do is make sure, like they got you. Got you, William.
And, well, they got me because they originally got my client in the first place. My client
Pues que era bien.
is going to come from there now.
Right.
Because that house is found.
Yeah. Well, these are things that happen. All right. So any other questions? Thank you for opening that up. Okay. My time is over 2 minutes, but it was Q&A was part of it. So anybody have any comments, questions, anything?
Just a partial solution to my problem. You can go on as an agent and get a Zillow account and put up a listing on your own as by agent. So
Okay.
that's what I'm going to have to do in the meantime here without the availability.
All right. So you all know. So I would hope you guys would pay attention because a lot of what I bring you really is way ahead of what's happening. I try to get it to you before it actually happens. So you're in a position where you can react and do something with that information. It's not just here to espouse that I know everything because I don't. I just do a lot of research. And I try to bring that research to you so that you can have a competitive edge over other realtors that you are competing with. That's what I'm trying to do, is help you provide better service to your clients so people will see that I want to go to Anna because Anna knows what's going on. She knew this was going to happen 2 months ago. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is position you. That's why I urge you guys to please turn your phones off during the time that I'm presenting, because guess what? You may miss out on something, and later on you may get embarrassed because the clients are going to put you on the spot, and you could have been ahead of the game and said, this is going to happen, my clients, and here's what we're going to do to help take care of you. But if you don't pay attention, or you don't come to the meeting, or you don't go online and listen at it, you miss out. All right, any other comments before I close? Gabe comment? Oh, yeah, so is Gina. So, okay, yeah. All right, well, thanks all so much. I appreciate you guys being here, and hopefully you got something out of this meeting today. Use it. You're welcome. All right.
No more.